Okay, we're going to talk about angle relationships, and the one that we're going to start with is one you probably already know. It's the triangle sum theorem. So basically what we're saying is the angles in a triangle add up to 180. So the sum of the angles of a triangle which is what sum means. So I don't really need the word add. The sum of the angles of a triangle is, the sum is 180. So that basically means that angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2 plus the measure of angle 3 equal 180 degrees. Which we kind of had done that before a little bit in our last unit, so that should be relatively easy for you to remember. So, there's not very much room, but I think we can make it work. Okay, here's a piece of plywood that's going to look like a mountain. So, here's my mountain. I don't know what needs to go on a mountain to make it look like a mountain, but the one angle is 76 degrees and one angle is 45 degrees. So the question is, how much is the angle at the top of the peak? So I know that 76 plus 45 plus x equals 180. Add these two together, 121 plus x equals 180. And then I'm going to subtract x equals 59 degrees. So the angle at the top would be 59 degrees. So we're going to find the measure of each of the angles. And we know that these three together are going to add up to 180. And it's going to look like a super long equation. You could also just start combining your like terms in your triangle. But I'm going to go ahead and write the whole thing out. 7n minus 8 plus 6n plus 4 plus 2n plus 4 equals 180. So if I add up my n's, I have 15 n's. And then I'm going to add up my -8, 4, and 4, which actually ends up being 0, which I don't need. So I'm going to divide by 15, and I'm going to get n equals 12. So notice that that's one thing that they asked me for, but they also asked me to find each angle. So I need to do 7 times 12 minus 8 is 76. I need to do 6 times 12 plus 4, which is also 76. And then my last one is 2 times 12 plus 4, which is 28. And I could double check by adding those together and making sure they all add up to 180. So make sure you do answer all the questions. Okay, so when we're doing angles in a triangle and a ratio, that means basically what we can do is we can make a triangle. And if one angle was 3, I'll try to use the smallest one. One angle's 3, the other angle's 4, and the other angle's 5. But that's a ratio, that's not the degrees of them. the angles. So I'm going to add an x, because whatever x is, if I multiplied it times 3 and times 4 and times 5, then I would add that up, and that would be 180. So the way I keep my ratio is I add the 3, the 4, and the 5. So 3x plus 4x plus 5x equals 180. So that's 5, 9, 10, 11, 12x equals 180. Divide by 12. X equals 15. So remember, that is not the measure of our angles. That is just x. So the angle that's 3x is going to be 45. The angle that's 4x is going to be 60. And the angle that's 5x is going to be 75. And if you add all those together, you get 180. So those are my 3 angles. Okay. This is little teeny tiny. Okay, so I have a acute angle of a right triangle. So first of all, I'm going to draw a right triangle. And I know you guys know if it's a right triangle, that angle is 90 degrees. It doesn't matter which other angle I pick. This one's going to be 23, and I'm looking for that one. So I have a choice. I can do 90 plus 23 plus x equals 180. If I subtract 90 on both sides, which I could have not even written that part, I have 23 plus x equals 90. Because if one angle is 90, the other two angles have to add to 90. Okay, so I could have skipped the 180 part and I could have gone straight to that. So I'm going to subtract 23 from both sides. X equals 67. Okay, so the acute angles in a triangle, in a right triangle, there's 2 of them. They add to 90, which is what I was just saying. And the measure of each angle of an equiangular triangle is 60. So equiangular or equilateral are the same. You can use either one. If they say equiangular, it would make sense that the angles would all be 60 because 60 plus 60 plus 60 is 180. Okay, so interior is, you probably know this, all the points inside the triangle. And the exterior is all the points outside the triangle. So an interior angle is formed by 2 sides of the triangle. And an exterior angle is formed by extending a side. Okay, and then the remote interior angle is an interior angle that is not adjacent to the exterior angle. Okay, so let's put this on our picture. So the inside would be inside here. So all the angles that are in here are interior angles. All right, and the exterior angles would be everything else. So everything out here is exterior. So if you notice, this line got extended. This angle right here would be an exterior. And the remote interior, there would actually be two of them. If this is my exterior angle, then this angle and this angle are remote interior. Okay, so the only other thing just kind of to notice is if you have an exterior angle, you've got a linear pair, which means those are going to add up to 180. So if you know the inside angle, you can find the outside angle. Okay. So here's what we want to know about, or here's why we did this. For the exterior angle theorem says that an exterior angle, and it's always made by adding a straight line or extending a side of a triangle, is equal to the sum of the remote interior angles. So that means that the measure of angle 4 is equal to the measure of angle 1 plus the measure of angle 2. And I don't know, this is one of those things I'm always like, do I go into all the detail? If these three angles add up to 180, and these two angles add up to 180, then it makes sense that this angle and these two angles would have to be equal to each other, because if I substitute that in, they equal 180. So if you weren't listening to the sound, it doesn't matter. Okay. So we have not talked about this yet. Maybe we don't need to. Let's just go. Okay, so here's the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to say this has to be 180. So 120 plus the measure of angle 1 equals 180. So that means the measure of angle 1 equals 60 degrees. Okay. And we also know that angle 2 plus angle 3 equal 120. And we also know, well, I guess you do have to, Okay, we hadn't talked about it yet. It's going to be part of the next lesson. These two guys means equal. And those being equal means that one and 3 have to be equal. And so the measure of angle 3 has to be 60. Therefore, the measure of angle 2 has to be 60. And we will talk about isosceles triangles in the next lesson. Or you might have already talked about it in the right before the holiday, the 4-day weekend. So I'm going to leave it like that, and that means that it is an equilateral triangle. Equilateral, equiangular, either one works. Okay, so using our exterior angle theorem, this also is going to be one of those things that where I run out of room. Okay, 9x plus 2 equals 23 plus 5x minus 1. So 9x plus 2 equals 22 plus 5x. Take away 2 from both sides. 9x equals 20 plus 5x. Subtract 5x. I get 4x equals 20. X equals 5. Okay, so knowing that x equals 5 is not the answer to everything, but it's a start. So we know that PRS is this angle right here. So angle PRS measure equals 9 times 5 plus 2, which is 47 degrees. And we can use blue. PQR is this one. The measure of angle PQR is 5 times 5 minus 1, which is 24 degrees. So that's one angle, that's the other angle. Okay. Okay, so third angle theorem is one of those things that you're like, oh, okay. If two triangles have two equal corresponding angles, then the third angle are equal. Okay, so here's what it would look like if I were showing you. Corresponding angles are going to be in the same place on two different triangles, and we can either do one line like that, or we can put little marks on it, but I'm going to do this. So then these are different angles, so I'm going to use two little marks. And then, so if those are equal, then these guys are equal, which makes sense because they all have to add up to 180. And if you know two angles are equal, then the third angle has to be equal. So let's do one. Okay, angle C is 4x. Angle F is 3x plus 25. Angle A and angle D are equal, and angle B and angle E are equal. That means that 3x plus 25 is equal to 4x. I just changed my mind because I'm going to subtract 3x. So I'm going to have x equals 25. And the measure of angle F is going to be 3 times 25 plus 25, which is going to be 100, which is what 4 times 25 is. So I just checked my work. It worked out. It's all good.